Good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night. I'm Tomo, formerly known as Zombo,
And I'm Shade Reagan.
and welcome back to Warhammer Nerds Talk About Warhammer.
Or maybe you're a nerd.
Proud of it. So we've got lots to talk about for various things, but given we talked last week about 40k faction leaders and why some of them aren't as good, even though they were cool in previous eras, now we're going to talk about Age of Sigmar.
All three editions of them.
And that's important to note because while many of these characters are from fantasy, uh, we're again going to be focusing on Age of Sigmar rather than their fantasy counterparts.
Yeah. Who needs anything from the old world? The dead world.
The
It
Baroque
blew
world.
up. Yeah.
So, like before, we tried to keep to characters that have models or are currently active in the world.
So you're not going to see Tyrion on this list, even though he's one of the Lumineth gods, because he doesn't have a model. And in the lore, he hasn't really done anything.
And you're not going to see Malekith either, even though he's an active god. But we still haven't seen a model for him.
You said we're not going to talk about fantasy, but you said Malekith. His name's Malarian now.
Whatever. Anything else we should go over, Shade?
I don't think so. So
All
why don't you
right.
kick us off?
Sure. We're going to start off. In the old world, there was a wood elf who fought against the forces of death and darkness. And as the world blew up, she was resurrected and created as the goddess of life and order. This is
She,
Alariel.
she was not technically a wood elf. She was the Ever Queen, the queen of the High Elves, but she had close relations with the Wood Elves. And then she fused with the air god, uh, Ariel, I do believe. And that's how we got Alariel.
I see. See, I play Sylvaneth. I don't even know this crap. Um, as far as characters go, I think Alariel is not even the most interesting Sylvaneth character. But I didn't feel justifiable to put Drisha Hamadreth on this list, even though I'd have put her in A or S tier.
She is a murderous psychopath.
As far as Alariel goes, I'd probably put her personally in B. She's got a fantastic model. I love the whole giant spite mount. She does a lot for the army. But as a character, she's just kind of there.
Yeah, the weird thing with Hilarial is like whenever GW brings her up in the lore, they typically go over the same grounds all the time, which was that when Nurgle invaded, she fell into sadness and despair and had to like cocoon herself away for a while. And then eventually, when the Age of Sigmar burst out, she returned in her war form aspect, and now she's much meaner and leading armies. And they always bring up that she's in her war aspect, her war aspect. It's like, guys, please stop retreading old lore and give her something new to do. One thing that was interesting was that she actually created a god of the hunt, Kurnoth. I forget if they renamed him, and he died. But she wields his spear, and maybe it's something to bring him back. So we'll see where that goes. The weird thing with Hilario, she was really important at the start of third edition's meta plot and hasn't done anything since. Because with the Necroquake defeated, she initiated a life quake of sorts, and that freed some other guy we're going to talk about later. Um, so I feel like she has potential, but not living up to it right now. Uh, you said B or C?
Yeah.
Let's B tier her. I don't find anything particularly wrong with her. I just wish she did more.
All right. Moving on, Shade, do you want to introduce our next one?
I can't see them on your stream.
Uh, he's a big evil chaos dude who starts with an A.
Oh, Slambo?
Yes, Slambo.
No. Of course, next up is the Grand High Marshal of the Apocalypse, Archaon the Everchosen. Uh, the guy who won Warhammer End Times, sorta, kinda, but reality got better, and now he's trying to destroy everything once more. Archaon's interesting. He wants to kill all gods. He hates gods, only men. So I guess you could say he's the libertarian kind of chaos. Some
Ugh.
really Andrew Ryan going on there. That's a Bioshock reference for you.
But who is John
Um,
Galt?
Slambo. Archaon contrasts to Abaddon in many ways. For one, Archaon's cool. Archaon had to actually collect all these mighty, powerful Chaos relics in order to become the big dick Chaos Warrior leader that he is now. Uh, Including his horse, which is now no longer a horse and is more of a three-headed dragon demon thing. Uh, he rules over the 8 points, the center of reality, and is technically Chaos rules most of the Age of Sigmar cosmos. So, however, he's being attacked on all sides. So he's actually kind of the Imperium of Sigmar because he rules almost everywhere, but everyone else is picking him apart.
And he's also trying to kill all the
Uh,
gods.
True. Archaon wins pretty much every fight he enters, but his problem is he can't be everywhere, and other people are better generals than him. But if he shows up, he's probably gonna stab you with his Slayer of Kings.
So, where would you put Archaon? I personally love his model. I like him being an actually credible threat as a Chaos Lord. But otherwise, I don't have a whole lot of opinion on him.
I will A-tier Archaon. My problems with Archaon currently is that model-wise, Droger kind of overshadows Archaon himself. Uh, his fantasy model is admittedly a bit more balanced, even though we're not mentioning them. But I do. Here's my issue. I find him a more interesting character than Abaddon, but also I'm not a fan of the idea of Chaos having one unified leader.
You don't
It's
like
a bit
Chaos
weird.
Undivided.
I like Chaos Undivided. I just don't think that the Chaos faction makes sense to have somebody called the Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse.
Fair enough.
It's a very official sounding title for a bunch of murderous barbarians.
All right. Well, we're going to move on. And we're going to talk about someone I personally hate. The first Demon Prince of. I think he might be the first Demon Prince ever.
Yep.
But the very first Demon Prince who received the blessings of all four gods. Well, of four of the Chaos gods. This is Be'lakor, the first
That's not a
prince.
rock.
This is Be'lakor after he gets better from being killed by rocks, thrown by
Rocks.
lizards on pterodactyls,
Screaming.
unending rocks. Um,
So yeah, we're talking about Be'lakor again because Be'lakor in Age of Sigmar is kind of a different character than Be'lakor in 40k.
yeah, and he's got way more of a presence in Sigmar. I personally still hate Be'lakor. I hate the concept of unified chaos gods like this, especially in demon form. Like at least with champions of chaos, it's like, okay, well they're all empowering one guy in order to temporarily achieve their goals. But demon princes are kind of a permanent thing.
Well, the thing is Be'lakor is the reason Chaos doesn't do that anymore because Be'lakor was a mistake. Because the Chaos Gods were like in their infancy, and it's like, hey, let's empower one guy and make him into a Demon Prince, and then they realized, oh, now he's not beholden to any one of us individually. Yeah, we should never do this again.
Chaos
And
was a
that's why
mistake.
he's. Yes, it was a mistake. Be'lakor wants to be Archaon, and he's constantly plotting on how to overthrow Archaon. But he's not going just directly for, oh, I'm going to attack him and kill him or whatever. He wants to out impress the Chaos Gods in Archaon. So one of his big moments in Age of Sigmar was he created the Cursed Skies with the assistance of Lady Olander, whereby certain areas of the mortal realms, there's so much chaotic energy in the air that the Stormcasts, who normally when they die just get shot up in the lightning and return to Azir to be reforged, will basically lose themselves in the storm and die permanently. Be'lakor also has subverted one of the legions of the Varen Guard, the direct subordinates under Archaon, turning a whole bunch of them to his cause, and he has one guy who has basically become a Chaos Stormcast. That when he dies, he reforms later.
So,
Um,
you said there was a faction of death that did stuff that turned previously immortal champions of the God of Order mortal, essentially?
no, 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 no. No, I mean, Lady Olander helped him, but it was Bellacor's primary.
Sure,
Be'lakor
but
initiated the plan.
I'm more making parallels to a certain other planet breaking event.
Hmm, fair enough. Um, Anyways, but the thing was, Be'lakor initiated his plan. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna destroy this city and wipe out a bunch of Stormcasts." And then he realized a dwarf god was, well, a dwarven god was there, and he's like, "I didn't account for this. I must flee." Because if everything is not going according to plan to Be'lakor, he kind of freezes up. He plans for centuries, and then if something goes wrong, he's like, "Ah, well, upending this plan."
This is a
And he just,
terrible representative of Zeech.
well, he's all for Chaos God, so he's got to have Korn's stupidity in there somewhere.
Fair enough.
Anyways, I like Be'lakor and Age of Sigmar a lot. I actually find him more interesting as a character than Archaon. I would S tier him, but it sounds like you don't. You would rank him lower.
I
So
personally
we
put
got
him
him.
maybe B. So you want to stick him
We'll
in
split.
A with Archeon?
Yeah, we'll split the difference.
All right. I sent you the list of who we're going over.
Next up, the big daddy of the Sigmarines. We've got the Celestant Prime, who may or may not be Carl Franz from Fantasy. The Celestant Prime is the biggest and strongest of all the Stormcast because he wields Gal Maraz. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Probably
The
not.
hammer personally wielded by Sigmar himself at one point. Mortals struck by Gal Maraz who have any form of regret over turning to chaos, any semblance of humanity still left in them, will find their souls purified. And there's indeed like a whole bunch of Stormcasts who are former Chaos people because the Celestant Prime bonked them on the head.
Now the
This is
question
also our
is this is Galmaraz? Do you think would be able to purify people like Magnus the Red?
yes. I've often said that the Emperor of Mankind would have been better off if he had Galmaraz than his own sword in the Horus Heresy. I like how they both screw with chaos in two very different ways. Yes, the 40k Emperor. He wouldn't be able to fix everyone. Like I think Angron and maybe Fulgrim are perma screwed, but at least a couple of the Chaos Primarchs could have been brought back.
Lorgar would be screwed.
Lorgar's, yeah. But even Horus,
Yeah.
when the Emperor killed Horus, like he says he sees Horus's humanity at the end, and like
I mean,
he
I would
sees the
say
man he once
Angron would
was.
probably been fine during the heresy. Like he turned on the Emperor because he viewed the Emperor as a tyrant, not because he was like pledging his allegiance to Khorne.
Eh, Mortarian's a possibility early on.
Mm-hmm.
Mortarian does not. He regretfully did join Nurgle. Anyways, Celestin Prime is also our chance to talk about Sigmar as the god. As while he doesn't have a model, he's sort of in all of the Stormcast. He spread his power out rather than concentrating them. Sigmar's weird. He's a big barbarian, but he's all about civilization. I don't get it.
He's Temujin Khan.
You don't exactly see Conan the Barbarian setting down good tax policy.
I mean, again, Temujin Khan was a barbarian invader, but he also brought civilization to a lot of Asia and Eastern Europe.
I suppose. I've rambled enough. What is your opinion on the Celestin Prime and Sigmar?
I don't really have an opinion on the Sigmarines. Um, I was one of those people who, when Age of Sigmar first launched, I was just getting into 40k, and even just getting into 40k, I was hearing like all these people complaining about how bad the launch of Age of Sigmar was, and I was seeing the same issue with the Stormcast that I was with Space Marines, specifically the Ultramarines, where it was just like everywhere. That said, as time has gone on, the Stormcast get a lot of focus, but then other factions also get to have their time in the sun. It's why I don't hate the Stormcast as much as I do Space Marines.
Yeah,
The
point of
Celestin
order
Prime. Oh,
as a bit of contrast between the Stormcast and Space Marines. Celestin Prime has lost. He got killed by Lady Olander at one point. Like he is not, you know, Gilliman or
I mean,
Marnius Calgar
Marnius
pre
Calgar
modern
got his
edition.
legs and arms ripped off like a jujube or a jelly bean. Ah,
Fair enough.
gummy bear,
He's
like a
not.
gummy bear.
He's not. He's not Cato Sicarius. The Cato Sicarius also lost at one point to Necrons.
Uh,
Anyways,
so
he's
as far as the
lost.
Celestin Prime himself itself has, goes, I don't really have an opinion. I think he's got a cool model. And going to talk about Sigmar, uh, I really like the whole concept of Sigmar, but that's more just I like people who are like equal opportunities. You know,
Mm,
Sigmar is willing to look past shitty history, shitty things you've done if you're willing to make amends and fight for the side of order. I mean, you look at some of his closest allies, and it's just like, yeah, okay.
yeah, tactless.
I mean, that's I think his biggest weakness is that he trusts Keebs.
Yeah, right.
So,
Um,
like I said, I don't really have an opinion on Celestin Prime, so I'd probably put him in C or Shrug.
but we're also accounting for Sigmar.
Yeah, and I again,
You wanna? Not a big opinion.
like I don't have a big enough opinion to really put him high.
I would lean B tier. So why don't we cut the difference and say C tier?
All right. Next is another character. You're going to hear this a lot in this list. I ended up having a lot more to say on the Age of Sigmar list than I thought I did, but I don't really know a whole lot about many of the Sigmar leaders specifically. Next, we're talking about some of the leaders of the Maggotkin of Nurgle. These are the Glotkin,
Yeah.
Nurgle's most exalted mortal champions, I think.
Yes, they are considered the most highly favored mortal servants of Nurgle. I actually we weren't sure on this one. Nurgle has a lot of characters and they don't really seem to have a hierarchy. I went online and asked people and most tended to agree that the Glotkin were more highly favored than any other ones.
Yeah, and if you
And
recall, in
demons
our
didn't
Age of
really have a
Sigmar
hierarchy.
list, we put the Maggotkin of Nurgle were the only faction we literally put in our Shrug tier.
Hmm.
So, do you have an opinion on the Glotkin?
Um in Age of Sigmar, no. I have opinions about them relating to fantasy because the Glotkin got introduced in the second End Times book, which was End Times Glotkin. They were brand new characters who came out for the book, and by the end of the book, they weren't dead, but they were rendered irrelevant. They fled a battle, and Nurgle was mad at them, so he trapped them in a jar. And they just kind of came and went. Their only notable achievement was they killed Karl Franz, but then Karl Franz came back possessed by Sigmar. And it just seems real weird to have them slotted in between, you know, Nagash coming back and the Elf Civil War ending. But like I said, not a big opinion in Age of Sigmar. The really only major thing in Age of Sigmar, they beat Neferata, but then got beaten by Alarielle during the Realm Gate Wars. And Nurgle flung them into a prison, kind
Again.
of like what happened with End Times, but then they got free again. There's three of them. One's a sorcerer, one's a warrior, and one is a giant, disgusting mutant blob thing. Shrug them.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got the biggest and the baddest Auric in all of the mortal realms, Gordrak, the Fist of Gork. If that description hasn't cued you in, Gordrak is basically the equivalent of Jazgul Thraka for Age of Sigmar versus Fantasy. He is the leader of, well, one of the leaders of the Auric war tribes. He gathers them all together into big waz and goes around on rampages destroying stuff. And one of his biggest things was the siege of Excelsis that happened at the tail end of second edition, leading into third edition. The siege was rather funny because Gordrak was, another character we'll talk about later told him of a prophecy in which he would need to get some artifacts of Gorka Morka in order to succeed at this siege. And I believe he got like one or two of them, got bored, and decided to go fight the siege anyways.
He got bored and kind of wandered off.
And it was funny because one of his things was like, oh, this is a ram you're going to use to knock down the walls. And, you know, with the other artifacts, you'll be empowered enough that it'll break the walls of Excelsis and you'll be able to get through. Well, he showed up with just the ram and, you know, not all the other artifacts. He threw the ram, like, you know, had the ram go against the walls and it broke. Because he didn't have all the other artifacts.
Reminds me of Dragon Ball Z at the Buu Saga. Gohan gets this super special training with the Kais, and then gets this super amazing sword that's supposed to cut anything, and he's training with it with Goku, and they chuck an unbreakable chunk of metal at it, and it snaps in half.
By the way, he also rides a Maw Crusher named Big Teeth.
And Gordrak is what I think of when I think of the Oryx. I love his model. The giant Maw Crusher is so cool. And I think it's one of the things that it's one of the things about the Oryx that I do like. I mentioned in the Sigmar video that I don't care for the Oryx as much as I do the Orcs of 40k, but Gordrak kind of helps me have a higher opinion of the Oryx in general.
Him and Big Teeth tried to 2v1 Kragnos. And while they lost, they did a decent job at it. And he was like, no fear. Come on, fight me. You could be like, he's not a very deep character, but he's an Auric.
Yeah.
It's hard to hate him.
Yeah. I'd go with A tier myself.
Yeah, let's A tier him.
All right.
He doesn't quite... I do think Gazgul has a bit more going on with him than Gordrak, but that may change in time.
Yeah. All right. Next off, the greatest demon of Tzeentch, the prophet of the Changer himself, able to see the future and the past. One head speaks the truth, the other lies. This is and is not Kairos, Fate Weaver.
Doesn't one head see the future and one head else only sees the past?
I said that, didn't I?
I thought you said truth and lies.
I said one sees the future, one sees the past, and one head speaks the truth, the other lies.
Okay. Fair enough.
This is the only character who in fantasy who was beaten by a little girl from Kansas and her dog. Which is still one of the funniest stories I've ever heard from fantasy. where they made the Wizard of Oz canon.
I think that was just Zinch. I don't think that was
No,
Kairos.
it was Kairos. Kairos was the guardian of the last gate.
Mmm. All right, fair enough.
Um, Kairos is also the reason that I don't necessarily outright dislike the Zinch Demon line. I just wish the Zinch Demon line was a bit more consistent with the aesthetic they're going for. Like, I like the bird aesthetic. I want more
More
bird aesthetic,
Birdman.
more birdmen.
Fair enough. Kairos is a bit weird in Age of Sigmar because I feel like in terms of doing stuff, we've seen more of the gaunt sorcerers who are not technically disciples of Zinch because Archaon enslaved them all. Kairos has just kind of had some loose backstory stuff that he's done. He once laid siege to a skyport of the Karajan overlords for 99 days, but he got repelled. Or did he? But otherwise, I mean, it's the same kind of standard character as he is in 40k. Needs to have more lore about him in
See?
Sigmar. Uh, sure, that works for me.
All right.
All right. Next up, if you thought Gordrak was big, you haven't seen nothing yet. For next up, we have the biggest and the stompiest of all of the Mega Gargants. You know, the sons of Behemoth, the god beast who is slain by Sigmar. We are first talking about King Broad.
I have zero opinion on anything about the Sons of Bahamut, so this is going to be entirely on you, Shade.
I have zero opinion
All
about
right,
King
that's
Broad.
all right. Let's move on then.
He's kind of neat. He's got a skull helmet. That's fun. I believe at one point he was a suggested like conversion model, and then he became an official. So that's but I could be wrong on that. So don't quote me. He's got a big hammer and an eye patch, and his loincloth has the corn symbol on it.
Okay. I guess
He
even champions
hates
of Gorka.
Sigmar.
I guess even champions of Gorka Morka can be influenced by the Chaos Gods.
He's also technically a priest and wishes to avenge the death of Behemoth. Shrug.
All right. I'm going to skip ahead in our order a bit because I don't know a whole lot about our next guy, and I'm going to let you introduce him. And also, I feel like we should decorate some of the other tiers.
All right.
So, in the factions of death, we've got great champions that were once mortal and felled and serve in eternal agony. We've got garbage losers who keep trying to usurp Lord Nagash and failing. And then we've got treacherous losers who didn't think to pay Nagash proper respect. And here we've got Kurnos, the Craven King.
Kurnos?
Kurnos, the Craven King, I apologize.
How dare you mispronounce his not kingly name?
Yeah, after all, how else would we ignore him? Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Oh, Kurnos is on this list because he's not a faction leader whatsoever, and that must be recognized.
Yeah.
Because he can never be king.
Kurnos is absolute trash. Such trash that Nagash recognizes how trash he is and has archers follow him around to steal his kills.
And it's two ghosts that make fun of him all the time, who are his brothers or his siblings.
And
I
a
don't know if
wife.
that was ever clarified.
And a wife that prefers to spend time with more, bigger boned gentlemen.
And Bellicor.
And Bellicor,
That's
yeah.
right. She'd rather spend time with a guy who was killed by rocks.
So yes, we put him in as a joke entry, specifically so we could have another tier for him and acknowledge how shitty he is.
Well, would you like me to go back to who was intended to be next then?
Yes.
Next up, we have the end of empires. The other really, really active god of destruction, the deity of earthquakes. We are, of course, talking about the big centaur man, Kragnos.
He's got a really
For
cool
those,
model.
yeah, for those curious about Kragnos, he belonged to a species that lived on Gur, the realm of beasts, in years past. He was one of their mightiest warriors, if not the mightiest. And he just wanted to pick fights with everything. So he picked fights with the Draconeth. That's dragons for people not using trademark speech.
The real
And,
dragons, not to be confused with like star drakes.
well, Star Drakes are sort of more dragons than the Draconeth, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, he picked a fight with them. And, they fought back, and in turn wiped out his entire species except him. He got real mad about that. So he kept, going on a murderous killing spree, and he just couldn't be stopped. And, the hordes that followed him worshipped him, and he ascended into godhood. The dragons, the Draconeth, were like, oh crap, we need help. So they went to the Seraphon, and the leaders of the Seraphon sealed Kragnos in a mountain. But in turn, they would take the eggs of the Draconeth and hide them away until a future point. By the way, the Draconeth were essentially all wiped out. There's like 2 of them still alive. They were adults. However, after Ilario's lifequake, Kragnos broke free of the mountain, and he went on a terrible rampage. He encountered Gordrak, and they got into a fight, and Kragnos won and kind of took over his Wa. He then went to go siege Excelsis, and he managed to break down the walls where those magic artifacts could not. However, his assault was interrupted by the arrival of 2 godly deities, Marathi and, of course, Lord Croak. He beat the shit out of Marathi, but then she and Lord Croak did a whole ploy where they opened up a portal and made him see dragons on the other side, and he ran into it and got flung into the frozen wastes where he's now fighting chaos and death.
All in
But,
all, a good day for Kragnos.
yep. Kragnos is a bit of a controversial character, mainly by Beasts of Chaos fans who feel like he should have been a part of them. He doesn't really fit in with the rest of Destruction, but that's what you get with being the last of your kind. He's a big, dumb, angry god. Whenever he gets hurt in the tabletop, there's a chance he screams out and hurts people around him, including his friends. And he's really good at killings.
B tier?
I'll B tier Kragnos.
All
He's
right.
not the most impressive of gods, but he's just a big, dumb, angry. We'll see how he develops as the setting goes forward.
All right. Shade, I'm going to let you introduce the next one as well, because these are going to be the first S class, and they're your favorite.
Yeah! Within the forces of Grand Alliance Death, while all bow down to Nagash, he has appointed a series of subordinates who oversee many aspects of his armies. They have been imparted a fraction of his godly might, turning them into demigods. We are, of course, speaking of the Mortarks, who are represented here by Lady Olander because she's more distinct.
And so
They're
we're going to be talking about the Mortarks more in detail in a future video. But yeah, the Mortarks are really fucking cool. I apologize. Shade, go on.
Let me explain why the Mortarks are cool. Grand Alliance Death are all on the same team. more so than the other Grand Alliances. They regularly interact with each other because they have one boss they all answer to. It's kind of like it's kind of like a corporate sitcom in that way. The Mortarks have to play politic with each other and like try and get along, even though many of them don't like each other. It's all these horrible necromantic beings who have board meetings through magic mirrors while Nagash sits on his throne. It's funny, but it also makes for good character interaction and development. I love tracking, what's the positions of the Mortarks. Neferata is trying to beat Lady Olander down because she teamed up with Be'lakor, but Manfred von Garstein is currently invading Neferata's lands. And of course, there's Arkan the Black, who's great. Nagash's only friend, the most loyal one. And of course, who could forget Katakros, the most recently revealed one, leader of the Osiark Bone Reapers. He's got a really cool model that's basically a miniature boss fight.
Then there's also Mortarks we haven't actually seen models for yet, like the Bretonnian.
Well, he's not a Mortark. It's just commonly predicted that he will be one.
Oh, I see.
There's supposed to be 9 Mortarks in total. We are currently at 5. And I'm excited to see more of them.
Maybe we'll get the Bretonnian Mortark with a proper model line for them.
Yeah.
That isn't horribly out of date.
This Mortark of Madness?
Yes.
Because he's mad with righteous fury for the lady.
Yeah, so I have a lot of fun hearing about how petty and stupid some of the stuff gets with death. And the Mortarks kind of embody everything that's great about Legions of Death being united and united in purpose, if not completely in mindset.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you have more instances of them interacting with each other than you have, like, some of the Grand Alliance Order God.
Yeah, like, has Morathi ever actually, like, had a conversation with Teclis?
Don't think so. At least not for a very, very long time.
Whereas you get to see...
talk to Sigmar.
Yeah. Whereas you get to see Katakros having an argument with Olander. And it's like, okay, yeah, I definitely see this.
Well, Neferata. He had an argument with Neferata. He defends Olander because she freed him, so he owes her a debt of gratitude.
Gotcha.
That's why the Mortarks are so cool!
So, yeah, easy S tier. I think this S tier is going to be pretty dominated by a certain faction, but we'll see. And like I said, we're going to do a video in the future breaking down how we feel about the various Mortarks. Don't know if it's going to be a tier list, but... I
actually have a very fun idea how we are going to do that.
All right, well, we'll see then. Moving on. In the old world, during the end times, the lizard men fought desperately to protect the world as chaos was gaining footholds everywhere. Lord Croak himself fell in that battle, but his soul lingered. I'm probably very wrong.
Yes. Lord Croak died a long time before the end times.
Oh.
But,
his soul lingered around.
His soul just decided not to move on.
Yeah. So, thousands of years passed. The old world died, was stuck around in the realm of chaos, reformed, became the mortal realms, and then as more conflict was happening, Lord Croak just decided, I don't feel like being dead anymore. And now Lord Croak is not dead anymore.
What a Chad.
Absolute Chad.
Chad.
Lord Croak is one of my favorite characters in Age of Sigmar, even if I'm obviously not very well educated on him. Because I like shenanigans. That's always been one of my favorite things in any universe. You can ask Shade, like, I always look for the excuse for shenanigans. And Lord Croak kind of embodies that, and it's why one of the reasons I really love the Seraphon. So I think he's going to be an easy S tier for me as well.
Oh, I agree. He's
Yeah.
got a great model. He's cool. He's a big planner. Yeah. Whew, he did a lot of really cool stuff during the Realm Saga. He can pluck meteors out of the sky and rain them down on people. And yes, the sheer hilarity of he can just decide to be alive again. Gotta love it.
Yeah. How do you resurrect yourself?
Oh, the Black Pyramid rebuilds me over the several hundred years.
You are like little baby. Watch this. And yes, easy S tier.
All right.
Shay, do you
Next
want to
up,
introduce this one, or do you want me to?
I'll do it.
All right.
We
Because
have the greatest force of good in the entirety of Age of Sigmar. The one who gets the most done for Grand Alliance Order, who has ever strived to advance civilization's purpose and attain greater heights of power to defeat our wait, what? That's not who's next on the list. Put him back down there. Put him back. Put him back. I am, of course. And finally, only mildly backstabs her allies sometimes. It's Marathi.
yeah, Marathi is uh I mentioned in the Sigmar video. I always view the Dars of Cain as the Drukhari of Sigmar, and Marathi is kind of the very embodiment of that. Uh, for two editions, she was making this big show about how she was trying to resurrect Cain, the bloody-handed god of the elves. Elves.
Yes.
Um,
Elves.
while using her magics to give her her closest sycophants snake and bat bodies. Before at the was it midway or end of second edition? Uh,
It was during the end of second edition.
yes, she enacted her keikaku, sacrificing the remnants of the souls inside of Slanesh, as well as the remnants of Cain's heart, in order to fully ascend into godhood. Mostly, she kind of fucked up, but
Oh,
uh,
she's a god.
she's a god, but she's also not a god.
No, she is a god now.
No, I mean like she's got her god. She's a god, but she's also split in half, and
Yes.
half of her is mortal still.
It was So an interesting thing about Marathi is that in older editions, she had her standard elf woman form, and when she took damage, there was a chance she would turn into her Shadow Queen form, which was her actual true form, which is a Medusa dragon looking thing. But during the course of her attempted ascension, one of the elf souls of a phoenix king uh, cut her in half at a spiritual level. And so now is split into two bodies. And so she's kind of like a stand user now.
Wait a minute, Shade
Yeah.
is was that a JoJo reference?
Well, I mean, they do share a wound pool because when you hurt one, you hurt the other.
And my God, I just dated the hell out of this video. No, you know what? Is that a JoJo reference? Was already a dead meme when we recorded this.
Yeah, probably.
So, Marathi is. I don't think Lord Croak is considered a god, so I will say Marathi is my favorite god in the Mortal Realms. So for me, she's an easy S tier. What about you, Shade? I know you mentioned you didn't like how the Ars of Cain kind of focuses on Marathi.
Yeah, I also don't get why she stole the city that she did during the end of the Broken Realm saga. Like, she had a city. She could have founded a new one. Instead, she stole one of Sigmar's. It's a little frustrating how she keeps getting away with things. So far, her only comeuppance is the fact that her Shadow Queen form got absolutely pulverized by Kragnos. So much so that her Shadow Queen form has a rivalry with Kragnos and is trying to seek him out and kill him, while the more elven looking Wrathy is like, wait, where are you going? We were supposed to have the same mind. Come back. I mean, this is part of my plan. Um, but yes, it still annoys me that she sort of takes up all the attention of the Dust King. At the same time, however, she is the most active order god in terms of doing. She has had the most story. I personally, I feel more of an A tier, but if you feel very strongly, we can keep her at.
All right. Next, back in the day, this dude created necromancy. Wrote, was it 13 books about
9 books.
9 books about necromancy. And when he finally died, his closest lieutenant, Arcan, the victim of gingivitis, uh, enacted several plans to resurrect him with a giant obelisk and create the God of Death, who proceeded to go and kill every other God of Death ever.
Well, there's a bit of a gap in time between then, but that's basically the gist of it.
Yeah. Nowadays, he did a big old necroquake and created and turned the Tomb Kings into actually good models. Come at me.
What?
And he remains the most petty, the most petulant, and the shittiest god in all of Sigmar. We're talking, of course, about Nagash, the Lord of Flies, Lord of the Flies.
That's Nurgle's title. It's Undying King, the Great Necromancer, Old Bones. These are all acceptable titles.
So he's obviously a trash tier. Let's move on.
You're gonna be a trash tier in a second.
Shade, give me one reason why he deserves to be an S tier and not trash.
He's a skeleton man.
Okay.
Part man, part skeleton.
Wait, what? What
just as Kragnos is part man, part horse, so too is he, part man and part skeleton.
Right, and which part is the skeleton part?
The skeleton part.
What? So no, I'm obviously being facetious. Nagash is wonderfully petty and childish.
He's such a great villain. That's why he's so great. Like, the Chaos Gods are just these ambivalent forces in the background. Nagash is here and being an asshole to you, to your face. And arguably, one of the best things that happened in Age of Sigmar was the Necroquake storyline. People loved Malign Portents. They loved Wrath of the Everchosen. Nagash has moved the setting a lot, and even though he got defeated, like, he's still working, building his way back up, and he's one of the most important gods, arguably, possibly the most singular important one, since he singularly leads the Grand Alliance Death as a faction. He's undisputed Master Shaiish. He ate all of the other Death Gods, with only a couple hiding away. Very few. And that's cool. He also used to kind of be bros with Sigmar, and they went on back in the early days of the realms. You know, Barbarian and Sorcerer going around. And I just love the idea of Sigmar and Nagash having traditional Dungeons and Dragons adventures.
But remember, it was Nagash's fault.
What was Nagash's fault?
The falling out.
Yeah, I mean, he should have killed Sigmar sooner.
And the whole background with Nagash actually also leads to the story of Age of Sigmar Soulbound, a RPG game that I have a lot of fun with. That Shade's a masterful game master for.
And we are running Champions of Death because I have an affinity.
Yes, and I'm actually looking forward to our next game session where we get
Yeah.
to kill more gobos. Hopefully,
Well, the Gobos are on your side because you're in the
no.
Enchanted Forest.
Yes,
Anyways,
and they're
that's neither
fairies.
here nor it's neither here nor there. Who doesn't love an actually threatening Skeletor? Come on,
Yeah.
Nagash is cool and
Although I
fun,
suppose
and he has
Skeletor wouldn't be Nagash because that would be more, I guess, Catacross or Arcan.
also Nagash is one of the coolest spells in the game. His hand of dust, where you have to hide a die in your hand, and if the opponent picks the wrong one, their model instantly dies. Nothing else interacts in the game like that. That's fun. That's real fun. He's petty. He's a jerk. His whole and to think, his whole start of darkness was because he didn't agree with his brother's kingly policies, and he was jealous of his wife. I don't think Nagash has thought of that woman in millennia.
And I think as well, one of the better interactions too is thinking about Alarielle versus Nagash, because Alarielle respects Nagash as, the end of the road where she is life, he is death. There must be balance in all things.
And Nagash does not think of Valerio.
Yeah, I think quite highly of him. That's interesting. He doesn't think of you at all.
Who are you?
Yeah. So
Also, his model's great.
yes, it is. Nagash was the first model I ever saw of like Aegis or not Aegis, Warhammer Fantasy centerpieces. And I saw Nagash's model before I got into Warhammer at all, and I thought it was so over designed the first time I saw it. And now I look at it and I'm just like, that is so cool. Because at first, I didn't really get Warhammer. And now I
One
do.
of the final cool things is he's the only god that the Chaos Gods fear. Like, the Chaos Gods legitimately get worried about Nagash. During the end times, the Chaos Gods interfered directly to stop his resurrection. And they interfered directly when he was doing their Necrocrape ritual. And when he sort of pulled it off, they literally, this is described in the book Soul Wars, they were laughing at him, and then he got it under control, and Slaanesh wasn't there, but the Chaos Gods literally stopped laughing and looked horrified. Oh no.
Laughter stops.
And if he wins, he actually kind of permanently defeats the Chaos Gods because the undead feel no emotions. So, arguably, he has the best way of beating them. Also, he beat Teclis in a magic duel. What a loser.
So, yeah.
Anyway.
I think that's going to be like the easiest S tier of all of them, aside from the Mortarks and Croak. Actually, also most of these are easy S tiers.
Do you notice that 3/4 of our S tier were at one point dead?
Yeah.
Someone kill Barathi and she can join the club.
The fourth one was eaten.
She got better. Anyways, speaking of Marathi getting eaten, when Marathi visited the stomach of Slaanesh in order to pull off her ritual to become a god, something got left behind, or her interactions with Slaanesh got a little freaky, and hey, she became a mom. The Slaanesh's newest creations. Coming up next, we've got the Newborn, the two latest Keeper of Secrets created by Slaanesh, which is notable because Slaanesh has been unable to make any since Slaanesh got imprisoned by the elves.
But I think Slaanesh is free now, aren't they?
Nope. Still stuck. Several chains have been broken, but they're still not all of them. Archaon found out where Slanesh was and broke chains, but Catacurse invaded the 8 points, and he had to run back. Anyways, there are two of them. There's Dexessa, the Talon of Slanesh, who's more of a fighter, and Sinessa, the voice of Slanesh, who's more of the charming seductress. They showed up during the Broken Realms Wrathy. They also showed up during the final Broken Realms book, Kragnos, where they helped fight in Excelsis, but they were defeated by some witch hunters and Sigmarites. Good times.
Freaking witch hunters.
Anyways, you're more of the Slanesh guy.
Yeah, but I don't follow Age of Sigmar lore that much. I saw the Newborns models, and I was like, huh, okay. But I still kind of prefer the sheer beauty and perfection that is the Keeper Secrets models. I know more about Shalaxi Halbane through her interactions with the Yanari than I do the Newborn, so I don't really have an opinion on the Newborn.
They're kind of intended to be the inheritors of Slanesh's legacy, but they're still, as newborn, they're newly formed demons and are needing to get some experience. Something that Be'lakor is providing to them. But so far, they kind of only have one story associated to them.
Let him get some sap.
So, needs work. We'll see how further development brings them along.
See?
Let's see it up.
All right. Next, we have Slanesh's greatest mortal champion, the perfect swordsman, the ultimate duelist. I don't know if he has any other titles. We're talking about Sigvald, the champion with the assless chaps. And I'd say
alliterative S's.
his assless chaps alone should make him an A tier.
You know, Sigvald's very fun. He's a master duelist, and quite unlike a certain other Chaos champion in a science fiction setting, he can actually back that claim up.
Yeah, his entire story isn't written around dying over and over and over.
He also has his shield is a mirror, so he can look at himself when he fights, and he likes alliteration, and his model's cool.
Yeah, he's like the excessive lust and warrior of the excess of Slanesh. Gludos being the excessive debauchery. But Gludos, from what I understand, isn't as much of a leader as Sigvald is, so we didn't put him on the list.
Yeah, Sigvald, significantly more important. I mean, Slanesh should bring him back from the old world. Kind of a big deal. Because he died at end times. And I don't even mean like it died in the final explosion. He died earlier than that. Quite a humiliating death, too. Anyways, he's fun. He's a cool model. And he's a master duelist. A tier.
All right. Now, Shade, you remind me of the Babe.
The Babe?
Yeah. The Babe with the power.
You've lost me.
Ah! What power? The power of voodoo. Who do? You do. Do what? Remind me of the Babe.
Well, this is my introduction.
It is your
introduction. I don't know what you're doing.
I was making a song
Yes.
reference.
Fair enough. We are bringing up the leader of, well, at least the majority leader of the Gloomspite Gits, the head Gobbo himself, and the Prime's worshiper of the Bad Moon, Scragrot, the Loon King.
The David Bowie.
Remember how I said that Gordrak got that, prophecy handed down to him about how he needed all these relics in order to exceed in sieging Excelsis, and only got like one of them and then got bored. Skagrot was the one who told him of that prophecy. He was whispering in his ear.
The bad moon sees many things.
Really, he should have just given Gordrak some of his stuff.
So, I don't know really anything about the Gloomspite other than the fact that they're an army of goblins and they're cool and they're led by the Goblin King. That said, I do like the aesthetic. I do like the model of what's his name again? Scragrot.
Skagrot.
Yes, Scragrot. I'd say A or B.
Yeah. I like him a lot, but I also don't know that much. So
B for Bad Moon.
let's B for Bad Moon him.
Oh, right.
I like the Gloomspite a lot, and I'm excited to see Skygrat. I want to hear more about him. I would like to follow his story, but I just haven't read it yet.
All right. Shade, you're going to need to explain something to me, though.
Yeah.
I know, like, God doesn't exist, sure. But this is Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, where gods do exist. And yet, we got fantastical creatures living in the sewers? What?
Oh, the ROUSs?
Yeah, I don't think they exist. This is the most rodent with the most unusual size. The Vermin Lord King.
Lord Screech, the Vermin King! And this is sort of, by extension, our chance to talk about the Vermin Lord.
And
Yeah.
I don't know
Demons
much
of
about
the Great Horned Rat.
I don't know much about Skaven aside from the basic stuff. So
So, you know how Skaven are backstabbing assholes?
yes,
The Vermin Lords are the most backstabbing assholes. To the point that, like, the Skaven are very wary about asking the Vermin Lords for any amount of help because it's just as likely that they'll summon them and then they'll stab someone and then scurry off in order to do, like, weeks-long terror campaign in the Great Horned Rat's name. Skaven, even as worshippers of the Great Horned Rat, do not trust Vermin Lords. And I love them for that fact. Because I feel like too often in Chaos, it's forgotten that demons are supposed to be a tricky and duplicitous sort, who, even if you're on the same side, you shouldn't take them at their word for just about anything.
yeah,
And
never
the
fucking trust a
Vermin Lords,
demon.
Yeah, Vermin Lords most embody that. Plus, I really like how cool the Vermin Lords look.
So, A or B for backstabbers?
Oh. Oh. Oh, man.
I'm gonna stick them in A.
It's A tier. They're fun.
All right.
Skaven are fun. Speaking of rats, next up we have the most disgusting deity of the most disgusting species of the most disgusting faction in the game. I'm first talking about the head Keeb of the Light Keebs, Tackless,
So
the god of magic.
before we continue, Shade, let's talk about Keebs.
Yeah.
We're of course referencing Keebs as in Keebler elves. You know, the little disgusting monsters that rot out trees and give out starchy, dry as hell cookies.
For those curious, in the game Shadowrun, which is a cyberpunk fantasy game, Keeb is a slur for elf, and it's hilarious.
I didn't even know that. I just understood the reference as being from Keebler elves.
Nope, that's where I got the Keeb thing from.
Oh, okay. So I just thought we should clarify that because we've been using Keeb over and over in our videos, and I thought Teclis was as good a time as any to talk about what a keeb is.
Fair enough.
Anyway, you were saying about this horrible, disgusting degenerate.
Yeah. So Teclis, he's another old world character. Became a god. Teclis' whole thing was that he's a twin brother Tyrion, and whereas Tyrion is martial might, Teclis is magical might, but he was also very sickly and had a very weak body. Not quite, as true nowadays that he is a deity.
Wait, what?
Teclis is what?
Shade.
Yeah,
An elf with a sickly, weak body?
yeah.
How's that different from other elves?
Oh well, it was even more so.
My god.
Uh, Teclis, god of magic and knowledge. He likes to educate people and show them enlightenment, whether they want to or not.
Well,
Uh,
that's already a step up from the Eldar.
is it though?
I mean, being mysterious for the sake of being mysterious, forcefully enlightening, I would say one of those is better than the other.
In any case, Teclis was the one who discovered the elemental, these spirits of the elements of Hish, which he used in order to bring the Lumineth elves back to a sense of order after they nearly collapsed during the Age of Chaos. He also created the Ideneth Deepkin, but when he found out they didn't have souls, he tried to genocide them. But his brother convinced him not to, and now the Ideneth are really afraid of him finding them and killing him one day. Oh, he also fought Nagash 2v1, and Nagash was beating his ass and, defeating him in a magic duel. But then Teclis summoned a bunch of human reinforcements and a bunch of elementars, and they beat Nagash, but he got cursed, blah, blah, blah.
So I think Teclis is going to be possibly our only trash tier.
Yeah.
Because fuck elves. Also, fuck the Lumineth in particular. The Lumineth are the face of boring elves in Sigmar, in my opinion.
Also, he's not much of a god of magic if he lost a magic duel. Or at least he can't win a magic duel without help.
Yeah, and that's just embarrassing.
All of the other, Lumineth characters are cooler than him. Tyrion is cooler than him. The Light of Altharion is cooler than Teclis.
Also, his model's not that great either.
And he's got a giant moon spirit, but he doesn't dress like Sailor Moon.
Which is just defeating the purpose.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Excuse me. Moving on. While you can't trust the Vermin Lords to do anything because they're going to backstab you, we have the greatest Skaven war priests, or whatever they call their big battle mages.
Greyseer.
Greyseers. This is Thankwall. And that's where my knowledge of Thankwall ends.
Thankwall is a fantasy character who got over in Age of Sigmar. He is the arch nemesis of Gotrek and Felix. Thankwall notably has a custom storm fiend named Bone Rippa, and it's been destroyed several times, and he gets a new one and names it Bone Rippa every time. Thankwall, notably, is not on the Council of 13 or major leadership Skaven, but the Great Horned Rat kind of just likes him and seems to protect him and further his endeavors. Hence why he managed to survive the end times and all that. Thankwall is unlucky, but when he's dealing with Gotrek and Felix, but otherwise seems to often lead the Skaven to massive, overwhelming victory.
Is Thankwall one of the reasons that the Green Horned Rat is actually considered a major chaos god?
Yep. He was a big part of the reason Skaven did so well during End and drove off the Lizardmen. There's a
So
fun moment in Age of Sigmar where Thanquol and Gotrek discovered a portal to the old worlds, and kind of had a bit of a reminiscence about that.
I always dig it when villains and their their rivals can have like moments of respect for each other.
Oh, they still tried to kill each
Well,
other.
obviously,
No,
but
don't get me
like
wrong.
it reminds me of the War for Armageddon, or the Third War of Armageddon. There's now a big old chaos rift on Armageddon, and the Armageddon Steel Legion and the Orcs are in their nonstop conflict. But anytime a chaos incursion happens, the Orcs and Armageddon don't even bother asking. They just turn their weapons from each other, focus down the corn demons that pop out, and then they turn back to killing each other.
Interesting.
But speaking of Thanquol, Gotrek, Felix, I think Felix is dead now, but Gotrek is still kind of around.
It's questionable what happened to Felix. We are uncertain.
But Thanquol is still around. Thanquol is still doing stuff for the Great Horned Rat. B tier or A tier for him?
That's A tier Thanquol. He's
Oh,
such a
okay.
lovable little scamp villain.
All right. Moving on from the worst of the worst of the worst of. Oh, wait, this is your introduction.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what were you doing?
I've lost
There
track
are
because I
many
don't know many of these characters.
there are many kinds of Keebs in Age of Sigmar, but there is one I kinda like more than the Ideneth Deepkin. And amongst the Ideneth Deepkin, there is a great leader, one who comes from the original generation of the Ideneth and is the last of his kind. Uh, I am, of course, speaking of Volturnus, King of the Deep. He who stood before the god Teclis, learning magic and the ways of fighting, but also led his people into escaping from their gods when he, tried to genocide them all. Also, he's got an eye patch. That's pretty cool.
So Ideneth are cool. They're soul vampires, and this is the head soul
Yeah,
vampire.
yeah. He also
Uh,
doesn't like Marathi because Marathi kind of backstabbed the Ideneth during
wow, Marathi backstabbing
during
someone?
breaking rank.
That's kind of unprecedented. She's usually so
Yeah,
trustworthy.
yeah, but this is backstabbing an elf.
Wow, Marathi backstabbing an elf? Wow, how unprecedented.
Fair.
So Volturnos, I mean, I again, I don't have a whole lot of opinions on him. I think the Ideneth are cool. I think what Volturnos represents is pretty cool. But yeah, that's where my opinions kind of end for him.
Is this a shrug tier?
Personally, yeah. What about
Yeah,
you?
let's shrug him.
All right. Moving on, let's talk about
You
a another champion of chaos.
you want me to handle this one because I don't know if you know anything.
I know nothing about like half of these guys, Shade.
Well,
I
yes,
don't
but
even know this guy's
especially this
model,
one.
so this
He
guy's
has a
entirely shrug for me. So you go ahead.
all right. One of the original characters, as in one of the first made for Age of Sigmar. We've got the greatest champion, mortal champion of Khorne in the mortal realms. He who once ruled all of the Great Parch, the main continent of Akshi, and who has aimed to conquer the whole of the realm of Akshi, Korgus. Cool.
Also known as Slambo.
Korgus. This isn't Slambo.
Totally is.
Korgus is responsible for bringing Khorne and the forces of chaos into Akshi, as he, after falling to the gods' worship, held a grand tournament of various champions where he engaged people in battle. And after, I believe, slaying 888 people, he opened a rift.
The Chaos God's obsession
Yeah,
with their numbers is always cracks me up.
it is quite weird. However, at the break of the Age of Sigmar, Stormcast initiated the Realm Gate Wars. Kargas found himself among the first people targeted by the Stormcast, led by Vandus Hammerhand, and he knew defeat and was driven back, and his realms sort of being torn apart on all corners, as the forces of order, death, and destruction are fighting back against the forces of chaos across Aksheet. So he's kind of like Archaon in
I'm sorry, I missed the last. You said he's kind of like Archaon in what?
miniature.
Gotcha. C for corn.
That's not how you spell corn.
Tell them that.
Ooh. Uh, yeah, we can see tier him. He's got a lot of story, and it's kind of cool because he's a major character, but he's not a special character. His model is a generic model, the narrative forward, but also he just kind of loses a bunch.
As is apropos for corn.
By the way, here's something really funny that happened to Corgus as I was researching all of this up. He conquered a place called the Orb Infernia, and made it a big whole power. This was after he got driven away from his initial holdings. The Orb Infernia is a moon that hangs in Akshi, the realm of fire, and he turned it into a power base. He had demon legions, raining blood, and all kinds of stuff. And then when like the Necroquake happened, Nagash's magic affected the Orb Inferia and somehow rewinded time, and everything that Corgus did there unhappened.
Yeah. Corn losing battles is kind of normal.
Sag.
And our final character, whereas Gordrak is the Fist of Gork, this final guy is the Hand of Mork, because there are Gork and Mouth of Mork, because there is Gork, who is brutal but cunning, and Mork, who is cunning but brutal, and together in Sigmar they are Gorka Morka. This dude rides around on a giant fuck-off bird, and I think he's a big wizard.
He is a big wizard. He's got a really cool wizard staff that has the severed hand of a Lord of Change that didn't fade away when the Lord of Change died. So, Lord of Change out there who apparently doesn't have a hand.
And is this the guy who can do just like a mortal wounds contest with somebody? Where
no, that's just a shaman for the bone splitters.
Ah,
this guy's just magic.
Do you have much to say on this guy?
He leads the Cruel Boys. And is an ally of Kragnos and advises him. So really, he listens to one god while also influencing another.
B for Big Bird Wizard?
We can C-tier him.
Alright.
But I think the fact that he has a Lord of Change hand is hilarious.
That is kind of funny. It's like it reminds me of the White Scars in 40k, where they just randomly have a bunch of like demon heads.
They have Doombreed's head.
I think they have Doombringer.
Not Doombreed.
Doombringer. I think they just have Doombringer.
Is it
Doom Rider? Sorry.
Yeah, Doom Rider. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, they have a few demon heads just decorating their home planet.
But anyways, I believe that's our list.
That is our list. In the S tier, we've got the Mortarchs of Nagash, Nagash himself, Marathi, and Lord Croak.
In A tier, we've got Archaon the Everchosen, Be'lakor, Gordrak, Sigvald, Lord Screech, and Thanquol.
In B tier, we've got Alariel, Kragnos, and the Goblin King, Skragrot.
In C tier, we've got the Celestant Prime and Star. We've got Kairos Fate Weaver. We have the Newborn. We have Corkus Cool. And we have Gobsprack, the mouth of Mork.
The characters we don't especially care about are the Glotkin of Nurgle, King Broad, and Volturnos, King of the Idoneth Deepkin.
In trash, we've got a guy who sucks at magic, Techless.
And in Craven Trash, we've got some loser who doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he's kind of funny to look at.
And that about does it for today. Shay, do you have any ideas for what you want for our next 40k video to be?
Oh, next 40k video.
I actually had a possible idea. It might be a
What
bigger
was your
video.
thought?
Ranking every troop's choice from the major factions.
Oh, that would take forever.
Or maybe we like limit it to like 2. Like not every single codex, because a lot of them is just like this book has Marines. This book also has Marines. This book also has Marines.
Okay. Okay. May have to work on that.
That was just an idea
Would.
I had. Did you have any ideas?
All right, a couple. Rank the Tyranid units. Rank the Gene Stealer cults.
That was another one I was thinking is talking about Gene Stealer cults.
Or even just rank the Gene Stealer cult models.
I'd say we could rank the Gene Stealer cult models better than the cults themselves.
That might work.
We could also just do a chat about what we think of various things. I don't think we'd have to do tier lists every time.
But they're so much fun.
Tier lists are fun, but I mean, like, we don't have to do a tier list every week.
Valid. We shall workshop some ideas.
We shall.
I feel Gene Stealer cults or Tyranids.
Until next time, however, do you have any funny witticisms to depart with?
Yes, I do.
Great.
My funny witticism is bow down before Lord Nagash, fucking living people. Stop your hearts right now. Give us your bones.
And like that, he goes down in the trash tier. Good night, everybody.